All right, so here I am with Dan's fish, and after looking over this facility many times, I've come to the conclusion that I need to make a Tetra video. And there's so many rare Tetras that I've never heard of or even seen that I think we need to make a dedicated video for them. So that's what we're doing.
There's a lot of cool ones out there. Yep. People think Tetras, they think neons and stuff, but there's a lot of other stuff too. So this is called the green lizard Tetra. I don't remember the scientific name. They came out of Colombia, and they're unique. They're not like any other Tetra I have ever seen, that's for sure. A lot of iridescence along the dorsal surface, and kind of a long torpedo shape, but also laterally compressed. So it's like kind of that, how angelfish have that lateral compression. Really simple to take care of and feed, just as easy as your other Tetras. We just, for some reason, they're not available often. I don't know if it's a supply chain issue or if they're from a remote region that just doesn't get collected much, but I'm kind of surprised that they're not more readily available, because to us they've been just as active and fun and easy as your common Tetras. But they school up. This one does seem to school more than your typical Tetra, which is awesome. I get asked all the time, how do I make my Tetra school? And the normal answer is you don't. Most of them are shoaling fish, not schooling fish. This is one that's much more of a schooling fish. It's much more tight together. So there's the green lizard Tetra.
Just pretty neutral conditions, water parameters, or?
Not picky at all. Back in my other facility, we had very, very soft water like Seattle. Here we have extremely hard water. They were colored up and happy and active in both. Awesome. So I haven't seen any preference for one or the other.
So now we're going to take a look at the Swordtail Tetra, which I've never even heard of before.
Yeah, these are an oddball for sure. This is a weird one for a Kerrison, for a Tetra. Called the Swordtail Tetra, sometimes called the Swordtail or Swordfin Kerrison. And you can see why. The males have that long sword that's yellow in color. They have a little bit of reddish rust red color in the anal fin and dorsal fin, but the fins are very extended. The anal fin is really long, the dorsal fin is really tall, and the caudal fin is nicely extended. Something that's super bizarre about these fish is, I don't know if you can see it, but they have a very strange sex organ. On the males, you'll see this little black dot that kind of moves around on their body between their dorsal fin and their anal fin about midway. This guy, you can see it right there on his body.
Oh, barely.
Just a little black dot. That is on a long thread that is connected up on the operculum. So it's just this long extension of the gill plate is what it looks like to me. Maybe it's right under the gill plate or right behind it. The long thread with this pom-pom on it, when I first saw that, I was convinced I had a parasite, because it's this wiggly thing on a stalk, attached to the fish. Come to find out, that's not a parasite, that's a sex organ. They believe that pom-pom on the end releases pheromones that induce the females to spawn. I know of no other fish that does anything like this.
Yeah,
this
that's really bizarre.
Interesting. The other thing that's bizarre about them is they're like a live bearer. So the males will inseminate the females internally, just like a live bearer. But unlike a guppy, which would then give birth to live young a little later, she'll just go off and lay some fertilized eggs off by herself later. So,
okay. That's different.
Hard to imagine what the advantage of that would be in the wild, but they've come up with it. So they're halfway to live bearer, is what I like to call that kind of fish. These ones are super easy. I think that they're one of the easiest fish to keep. They're like a danio when they're feeding frenzy. They aren't shy about eating at all, and they're really hardy in my experience. They come from South America. I would imagine that naturally they come from more soft water, but here we have super hard water, like Florida hard water, even though we're in Wyoming, and they have not complained at all. So
yeah, they look great.
I don't think they're picky about parameters. This is one I think is awesome.
They're also fairly inexpensive, which is nice. You can get a nice big school of them.
And you want to. I mean, look at that activity.
Yeah,
in fact, we should talk about that real quick. I think that if you get a larger school than you think you want, you'll be happy you did. Typically, people think of a school and they think of, oh, we'll get 6 or maybe 12. And I understand that. We have limited space. But something I've learned by being in a business where I have to buy hundreds of fish at a time is the behavior is completely different in large groups. So I think there's something to be said for an aquarium that has fewer species but larger numbers of each species, just because you'll start seeing behaviors and colors in things that you don't otherwise see, and I think it's just because their comfort level is higher. That's how I interpret it.
All right, so tell us about this one here.
The Coletti Tetra. This is the only time I've ever seen this fish, and it was a total accident. I ordered a whole bunch of splash tetras. This is what they sent me as splash tetras. I don't know how to get a hold of this fish on purpose.
Oh, wow.
But I'm glad they showed up because they're a revelation. These guys are stunning. They're, I would say, as pretty as any other tetra out there. The body is highly iridescent. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but there's a really iridescent lateral line, and each scale has like a gold iridescent, I don't know, tip to it or something. And they have the bright red tail. Another one that's super easy. This one we have kept in really soft water and really hard water. It didn't care either way. And something that I don't know how it happens is we have one here that is absolutely stunning. He looks like he has a light switch on.
Yeah, that is, like the camera's like, what am I looking at? The camera doesn't know how to focus on it.
It's like a miniature sun just blazing away there. Such highly reflective scales. I don't know if that's another species, or if that's a fish that is just feeling really, really dominant, or if that's a fish that has a weird neurological issue that doesn't allow it to monitor its iridescence. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's amazing. And these guys are just as easy to feed. See, they know they're getting food. They're all excited. You get the mob going.
Wow, that is awesome.
They are not, whoops. Oh, it's got a magnet on it.
Yep.
They are not shy. I'm just trying to move the light so they stay in focus as they run around. But look at that. It's like they're playing, I don't know, volleyball. The food still has not hit the bottom. But that's the Coletti Tetra.
And it was a sinking wafer, so that's why we laugh about that. Looks like a bunch of 7-year-olds playing soccer, just chasing after it.
Yeah.
All right, so next up we have the blood cap tetra, which I think is just really neat, having that little red spot on them. What can you tell us about this one?
Well, first of all, it's obviously an oddball, right? Just the shape is weird. You don't see a lot of tetras with a shape quite like this. These come out of the Congo region. Amazonas Magazine did an amazing issue back in 2018. I think it was in the July issue, June, July, something like that, where they did a write-up on a lot of African tetras coming out of the Congo. This was one of them. I think it's really neat because it's even if it didn't have like that blood spot on it, that red cap, it would still just be interesting because of its body shape and its coloration, its pattern. But with that, it's kind of singular blood cap on it, or red cap. I've heard it said both ways. It just makes it not just unique, but also I think it's really pretty.
Oh yeah.
When it's limited like that, it really pops, the red does. And that's a deep red. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but that is like a Santa Claus Christmas, like real red. These guys are going to get about 2.5 inches, just over 2.5 inches, and they are widespread in the Congo, which means they're fairly tolerant because they've been able to adapt to a lot of different areas. And these are super easy as well. All these fish are, one of the things we love about tetras is their ease of care. Almost all of them, even a lot of the rare ones, they'll take prepared foods without a problem. They're active. Once they settle in the tank, they're usually fairly bulletproof.
Yeah, I think we should mention that rare doesn't mean difficult by any means.
Rare means, in a lot of instances, especially when we're talking about Africa and especially when we're talking about the Congo region, rare means it's a country that in the last few decades has been war-torn, so no one's been able to get in there and get to the fish, or there's no infrastructure to get to the fish. But there's amazing fish out there. We just haven't been able to get to them very easily, so that's why they're rare. It isn't because there's a problem with them.
All right, now this is the golden or yellow Congo, or is it golden?
Oh, it's a common name, so it goes however you want it to. It's the same genus as your common Congo Tetra, Phenacogrammus, I believe is how you say it. And the species name is like Aurantius or Ancathius, or okay, I don't know the species name, but these guys are coming out of the Congo now. They're one of the prettiest ones. They have a bright blue eye, like a lamp-eye killifish, and then they have yellow on the top and bottom of that broad horizontal stripe across the lateral line. And so it's kind of like a yellow on blue kind of coloration that they have. Now these are going to get fairly good size for a tetra. These are going to get about 3 inches. So if you know the common Congo Tetra, I think it's called Interruptus, those guys they're known for their large size. These are another one that gets a good large size. Great write-up on these in the 2018 Amazonas magazine, including an article on breeding and raising them, as well as some other of the Congo Tetras. So when we think of Congo Tetra, up till now we've thought of Phenacogrammus, I think is how you say it, Interruptus, I think is the species name, the one that we've known and loved for decades. But now when we're talking about Congo Tetras over the last few years, we're starting to talk about a whole group of species, including this one.
Yeah, these ones are ones that are going to look a lot better in person because they're getting kind of washed out on that substrate.
Oh, are they? Yeah. Yeah, we did the white sand because it was available.
Well, I tell you what, the Corridores look really good on white sand.
Yeah, but it does wash out rainbows and some of the Tetras and things. But if they look that good on white sand, I can just imagine how good they'll look on dark substrate.
So last on my list here is the Selfin Tetra. And I'm blown away by this fish, and I don't know why, but I really love this fish.
I like it just because it's unique. It has a different cadence. Like most Tetras are frenetic, right? It's like a really quick beat, like
yeah, that's true. These are really chill.
These are a nice chill fish. It's like boom, boom. It's like slow jazz on a Saturday night. And the pattern is really cool. In the anal fin and the dorsal fin, they get a lot of color and a lot of really distinct dotting and patterning. What they remind me of is a morpho tetra that grows big and has a different color. But the body shape and how they act is similar. They are a cave spawner, so they will find a little cave to spawn in and defend, or a curled up leaf or something like that. So very different from what we think of when we think of your typical tetra. They're easy though, like the other tetras. They're easy to feed, they're easy to keep. We haven't had problems with these guys, they've been hardy. But look at the different cadence. The other tetras, you drop that in, it's like, mob! It's chaos. These guys, you drop it in, and it's like,
I'll get to it when I get to it.
We'll hang out, you know. We'll get there gradually. But they're eating well and doing good. They just have a totally different way of approaching life.
Talk about a great shoaling fish for fish that you might have that are skittish.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fish that people want to keep, and they ask me, what's a good tank mate? And a lot of the tetras are ruled out because they're talking about might be chocolate gouramis or wild type bettas or corridoras or a goby or something. There's a lot of fish that eat very slowly. And if you put them in with a group of really active food aggressive tetras, they're not going to get much food, or you have to work really hard to make sure they do. But this is a tetra that I think you could keep with any of those more sedate, more slowly feeding fish without any problem. I don't think they would outcompete them for food.
And again, pretty standard water parameters. They're just very adaptable.
Yeah, we have hard alkaline water here. They're doing well in it. Where they come from, I'm sure it's much, much softer.
Well, thank you. And where can they find these fish?
Dancefish.com! But really, we do try to do this. We have a lot of bread and butter. We have neon tetras. We have, black phantom tetras and stuff. But there are so many amazing kerosins out there. And a lot of them do well. They're just not readily available. So we're constantly on the hunt for that kind of stuff. Just to, once you've been here in the hobby for a while, sometimes it's like, you think you've seen it all, and then one day it's like, oh, I haven't seen it all. What's that? So that's what we try to do.
Well, we appreciate the knowledge, and thanks for showing us around.
Yeah, always a pleasure.